Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and today I have a tutorial. I am making a journal, and it is a sea-themed journal. I have my signatures all ready to go, and I have a repurposed book cover. And so I wanted to make, I could sew right through here and attach the signature strings onto the spine, but I decided to make a hidden spine, and I thought I would turn on the camera and let you guys see how to do this type of hidden spine. Now there are probably many ways to do a hidden spine, but I'm just going to show you in particular how to do this kind, and it's a little different. I've never done this type before because for this reason. I want to keep these end papers. This is a mid-century modern school book about the sea, and I'm assuming it's a series because none of these pictures are about the sea. So I assume that this series was about the sea, but the spine was so tiny that I wanted to have a bigger spine. So I went ahead and made a bigger spine for this, but I have made hidden spines using the book's regular spine too, so the spine doesn't really matter for the tutorial. But what I wanted to tell you is that I wanted to use these end papers. Look at how cute they are. It's a sea-themed journal. These end papers are perfect, and they're vintage and aged, and they're just wonderful. So I want to keep these. So that will be the only difference between the type I've made before, which has no end papers. I'll go ahead and glue my spine in and then put the end papers over the top. So I'll try to explain that once we get to that point. And I don't have any books to show you that have that. But I think you understand what I mean. Usually the end papers come on last to kind of cover up your mess, right? So this is how I'm going to do this. So to make a hidden spine, you need to sew your signatures into something other than the spine that's on your book. So I would say 99% of the time choose Craftex. This is Craftex. What is Craftex? If you're not familiar with it, it's a leather-like paper, and it will not tear. You can put this stuff through the washer, through the dryer. You can do all kinds of stuff to it. They have a variety of colors. I kind of stick with this gray color because it's easy to ink or paint or anything you want to do to it to change the color, but it's also a neutral color in case I wanted to keep it the same. So I could sew my signatures on, glue this down like this, and keep it the gray, but I decided that I wanted to put this fabric over it. I was going to choose a different fabric, but it does match the outside, which is fine. I would prefer like a coordinating one, but I couldn't find one that I liked. So I'm just going to use the same one as I used for the outside, but you can certainly pick whatever you'd like if you choose this method. Also, you could just cover it with paper. So just glue your paper on before you carry on, right? So the reason why I'm doing it is because I think this looks really great with the cover sort of outline and the paper. So I'm choosing to cover that up. You could, I mean, this color is so nice and neutral. You could like stamp on it, like script, background stamps. You could even, I have a stencil of sea creatures. You could put that on here and that could be your spine. I think that would be awesome. But just for today, I'm going to go ahead and cover this with fabric. And then it'll give it a nice look, I think, once it's all put together. Plus it, in between your signatures, it gives you something nice to look at too. See that? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I still, you know, I did a video a little while ago and I said I couldn't find my PVA glue. Well, guess what? I still can't find my PVA glue. It's almost like it disappeared. So what I was going to do is find my craft mat so I don't get glue on my paper here, but I'm just going to use this scrap paper. So I can't find my PVA glue. So what I'm going to use today, you can use basically any glue. I just don't want it to leak through and have spots all over my fabric. I am going to try matte medium, and I've used this before. I actually used it for this, and I think it turned out great, and it feels very secure. So what I'm going to do is this is a very fluid matte medium. I usually, when I use matte medium, it's usually like a gel form like this one, and it's thick, but for this I want a nice thin layer like PVA glue, only it's not. And I'm going to use a brush and just put it on really quickly and then put the fabric over the top. So before I do that though, I wanted to explain something. So it makes it so much easier if you score your spine. Okay, and the measuring. So I measured it. Let me tell you a little bit about the measuring as well. I measured it exactly with my end papers because, I mean, normally you would notch this, but because my end papers are going to remain intact, I just went ahead and cut it level with the end papers here. Because this will be plenty big enough, and it makes it just your eye will just kind of go across. So I do need, the spine is a little taller. The book spine is a little taller than my craft text, and so I will need to put something up here or maybe ink it in a green color. I'm probably going to put lace or something like that on top, so I'm not worried about that. But this may show too, and so I think I'm going to ink this before we do anything with it. The other thing I had wanted to mention, which I started saying just a second ago, is that it's extremely helpful if you score your hidden spine. So this is the hidden spine, right? This is what we're going to sew our signatures to. And what I did with this, I just lined it up, because you're going to have a gap right here, right? Otherwise your book won't close. So you've got a gap. If you're just using your book cover, it would normally have one, but since this is a homemade spine, I had to make sure to put a little gap here. It's about 1/8 of an inch. But if you lift up your book when you're gluing, you'll be able to tell how far away to put it. All right, so this I lined up very carefully and then pre-scored it. So I laid it right here on the book cover and I just scored it like that. That is extremely helpful. It gives your once you're going to glue this in, and once you do that, it makes it so much easier to bend without it distorting anything. So I would highly recommend scoring your hidden spine. So that I needed to explain before I glued. Okay, so that the scoring is done. I think I'm going to ink this a little bit. I'm trying to think what color was good for this. I'm going to go with a green, and I think this color was pretty close. So let's get that inked just in case it shows. It might not show because the fabric, I cut the fabric just it's really close though, because I didn't want too much of a fringe, but you could cut your fabric so it's more fringy. Oops, trying to get ink out of my empty lid. Okay, so I'm just going to ink that green. And the thing about craft text, and you don't have to use craft text, but the thing about craft text is so easy to work with, and it's the strongest like paper-like thing you can buy probably. So I did one not too long ago. I didn't use craft text. I used cardstock, heavy cardstock, and canvas, and I put it together the same way, like this. And then I felt it needed extra reinforcements, so I actually put Tyvek on the back. So I feel like that book was very secure. So this is slightly different. So you can use different things. Just make sure it's nice and sturdy and that your signature strings won't bite through the paper. Okay, so back to the gluing. Okay, so I normally keep a little glass dish right here, and I use it as my paint palette, glue palette. I'm using just a wide brush. It's just a little scrap brush, not good for much. Okay, my ink is going to spread a little bit because it's distress ink, so that's fine. I don't mind that. But get a nice even coat so that you don't get glue blobs on your fabric. But if you're doing paper, obviously you can do this a little differently too. Okay, so I have my fabric ready to go. The other thing I should mention is the size of the fabric, right? So you're going to want exactly the size of your hidden spine. And then I went, well, let's just talk about the both things. So both your hidden spine piece, like I said, I lined it up with my end papers, but you could line it up with near the top of your book and near the bottom of your book. But the part that I was going to tell you about is the flap. So where it bends, right? And the pieces that are going to be glued down onto your book cover are the flaps. We'll just call them flaps. I would say 3/4 of an inch, no smaller than that, but you could go bigger if you want. So about 3/4 of an inch is what mine are. And I think that holds it nice and snugly, and it's a good width for that. So I glued this on. It feels like it's pretty secure. Like I said, I used matte medium for my outside spine too, so I was liking the way that came out. So I'm just gonna do that like this. Okay, that came apart a little bit, but it feels nice and secure. Okay, let's get this little. Looks like the craft text absorbed it a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and redo this part here. Okay, there we go. Nice and secure. So now what I'm going to do is let this dry, and it shouldn't take too long, I don't imagine. And I think what I'm going to do, because I really like the look of it, I'm going to stitch down the side of this. Probably use a coordinating color. I'm going to stitch down the side to sort of give it a finished look. And even though this is raw edges, I don't mind that at all. So it's raw edges, but it'll give it a nice trim. So I'll be back in just a minute. All right, everyone, I'm back. I heat set this so it would dry quicker, and then I put a row of top stitching on there, both sides and top and bottom as well, in sort of a dark green color. All right, so this is ready to go. Just ignore these lines. I was going to do this differently, but I changed my mind. So just ignore the lines, although it was helpful when I was cutting it. All right, so now we have craft text with fabric. This should give us a wonderfully strong hidden spine. All right, so the next thing to do is to sew your signatures to your hidden spine. All right, so the way I'm going to do this is I am going to go ahead. I've got a disappearing pencil. You can get those in the quilt section of the fabric store. I have a disappearing pencil somewhere. Here it is. Sorry about that. What I'm going to do is I have 3 signatures, so I'm going to mark my center. So I don't necessarily want to bend that, so I'm just going to go ahead and measure. All right, so we have, I could actually, because I had measured here, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark. Mark my center. Otherwise, just mark your center with your ruler. Or at least that's the way I'm doing it. I didn't make a whole giant template. I just made one template for the holes, which is this. These are the placements I'd like for my holes, and so you'll see how I use that in a minute, but I didn't do the whole grid. I just did a quick one. And so I'm marking my center to get my middle signature in the center. Let's see. I'm not going to sew the whole thing with you. I just want to show you how I'm lining this up. So I lined up my papers the way I'd like them. Okay. I'm going to place, actually you're going to push these together as much as you can down into the crease. So, and then clip it. I'm actually going to clip it first before I clip it onto the hidden spine, because I just want to make sure that my papers all stay lined up as they should. I thought I had another clip. Alright, so I don't, so I'm just going to use these three. What you'll do then is line up the signature with your creases lined up with your tiny mark that you made. For this method anyway, you probably have your favorite method. We also have several binding tutorials in a playlist on our YouTube channel, so check the playlists and you'll find a couple different tutorials on how to make or how to bind. Alright, so now it's lined up perfectly with my marks. So I'm gonna now clip those with the binding. I just wanted to keep my pages all together. How important that is, so important. Okay, so now my thumb is holding it tightly and I'm clipping that. Okay, you can adjust it if you need to. Looks like this side got a little kitty wampus, so just a tiny move over should work. Tiny move. Okay, and now I'm going to clip this as well. And if I had 4 clips, I would clip that. You know, this may not stay. I'm trying to decide if I should keep that. Yeah, I think I will. I'm having a hard time keeping it in. Okay, let's see. Maybe I could paper clip it. I'm just afraid that this is so small it might be loose. So I maybe take that page out and trade it out for something else. But for now, I'm just going to show you how I do this. So then I'll lay my, always mark your top. So this is a middle mark, and then this is 5/8 inch up, 5/8 inch up here. But always mark your top to the top of your book, because each time, each signature will be the same if you put this at the top, and always keep it at the top. Because your measuring might be a little off, and especially if your signatures show on the outside of the book, you want it to be perfectly lined up. So here's another thing that we're going to clip on. Okay, so let's clip this on as well, keeping everything nice and tight. This is kind of a lot of clipping, isn't it? And I maybe could have done this all at the same time as well, but I didn't, so we're just going to go with it. Okay, so now it's all clipped. I can see that my line is all lined up with my marks for the center of that hidden spine. It does look like it needs to come down a little bit though, because it should be the same, equidistant from top to bottom here, top to bottom there. So I'm struggling with that right now, but I want to get it right before I start punching holes. Okay, that looks much better. Make sure you're nice and tight and clip it again. One more clipping, guys. All right, so then you'll take your awl and you're going to punch your holes directly through your template, directly through all your pages and through your hidden spine. So go straight down, and just punch your hole. Straight down here, punch your hole, and here, punch your hole, just go straight down. Then you're going to take your, make sure I'm all good, and you can see the holes there. Oh, sorry, you can see the holes punched all the way through. All right, so now I got to decide what color string. I might go with blue. It doesn't matter as far as the spine goes because it's a hidden spine, but I'm just trying to see my center of the signature papers and see what color they are. Okay, so I think I might go with the blue. I almost said glue on that. Okay. Then you're going to remove your template. You're going to remove your template and then sew your pamphlet stitch on here. And I'm not going to make you watch me do that. So what I'm going to do is stitch those onto my hidden spine. So your strings will be here and your string will be here in the center, and you'll have your repeat that with each signature. So in this case I have 3, and then I'll be back to show you what we do next. Hello, I am back. This is what I did. I sewed all 3 signatures into my hidden spine. And here's what the back looks like. I've got my strings in there. Curiously, it lined up pretty well with my drawn lines, which I'm always happy when that happens. It was, I didn't need the lines on there at all. I just had them on for a different purpose. So anyway, so I've got a little overlap here, and that's what we're going to glue this whole thing in the book, and I'll show you how. I did prep this a little bit. I did decide to go ahead and ink the top and the bottom just in case that shows, but my plan was to have a little bit of lace here at the top, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that in. I'm going to use Fabrifix, Fabri-Tac, Fabrifix 3-in-1. Those all are wonderful for gluing fabric onto things, and just for sturdiness. I just love the glue, so I'm sticking with that because I do like it, and I can, like when the store's open, I can use my coupon and get it at the store. So super excited for the stores to reopen, for when I need stuff like that. But so it's going to stick up just a little bit, if you can see that. It's going to stick up just a little bit over the top of my spine and the bottom. Oh, I need to scoot this one down a little bit. And I love the look of it. It's a nice crocheted lace, so it's not going to be, it's going to be more with the, almost look like a rope or some kind of a natural fiber, so that kind of goes with the sea theme a little better too. So nice crocheted lace, just sticking up a little bit in it, just almost makes it look like a little zigzag there. Alright, so that is prepped, ready to go. So what I normally do, no matter what my hidden spine is made of, what I usually do is put a layer of cheesecloth, 2 layers of cheesecloth here over this. And the reason why I do that, it does make it a little sturdier, believe it or not. I mean, if you take out a text block, you'll see that the professional bookbinders always have cheesecloth in there, right? So there is a purpose for it, and even though it seems so flimsy. So I'll put a layer or two, doesn't matter, of cheesecloth on here to help with the sturdiness, although with Craft-Tex it definitely is sturdy enough. But the other reason why I use it is for more tooth. So like this is a very flat surface, and these are very flat surfaces, although they're porous, and they should go together just fine, but it also just gives it more ridges and gripping areas for the glue. That's why I use it. I also like to sort of have it poke out, and so it's sort of for looks too. Like sometimes I'll just put a little strip of it right here because I kind of like it when it hangs out the top, but we'll see. I'll probably trim some of this off for that, but we'll take care of that later. And it doesn't have to extend all the way, but it doesn't matter if it does. So this does extend a little bit past my my creases even. So I'm going to trim this just a tiny bit. You could actually have it sticking out. It would be so cute. You could have it sticking out here a little ways too, but for now we're just going to do it pretty much over the strings, and it looks like it's through the crease a little bit. So once again, Fabrifix, Fabri-Tac 3-in-1 are just wonderful glues for this type of thing. So for now, I'm just going to do the cheesecloth. So let me just put that on first, and then we'll go ahead and do our flaps, because we don't want it to dry too quickly before we have a chance to lay it down on the book. Okay, so as you can see, what we're doing basically is we're going to glue this onto the cover. This is the hidden spine. Okay, so I put globs of glue on there, and now I'm just going to pat this with my finger. Just pat it. When I use Tyvek, if I have cardstock or a couple layers of cardstock or a heavier paper, now with Craft-Tex this is totally unnecessary, but when I have other substances that don't take glue well, like Tyvek, I will use double-sided tape for that. That's just a little note there. I will use double-sided tape and glue, because Tyvek doesn't take glue very well, but the paper does. So okay, so now that's nice and glued down. Now I'm going to run some glue all over the top again, getting fairly close to the edges, but we don't want to get, especially because I've already got my end papers on here, right? So we don't want this to ooze out too much, otherwise it's going to get on your nice paper. If you come to a point where you say, oh man, that didn't glue down well enough, just run a tiny bead of glue under it. But so get fairly close. But in my mind, you can get too close, because then if you're oozing, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to clean up. And if you have vintage paper like this, I'm not even sure how well that glue is going to come off of it, because it's very porous. So more glue, I don't think, I mean you could, but it doesn't seem like you could have too much glue here. Okay, because you want it to be nice and sturdy. Make sure your top is up, and your top is up this way before you do anything. Okay, I just see a little spot I'd like to take care of. Oops, my hand is shaking. I think because of the angle I was holding it at. Okay, so here you have it. You're gonna just line it up. So you're basically just centering your signatures. If you can see the crease of your Craft-Tex or whatever material you used, if you can see the crease of that, that will line up directly with the crease of your book cover. Okay, so, and then the other thing you need to do is line it up top to bottom and make sure that you don't have way too much at one end or the other. This looks pretty good. Okay, and so Make sure that we look nice and center there. Okay, then let's keep pushing this down. You're going to take a bone folder and crease, put your crease back in. You might need to manipulate it a little bit. Okay, so put your crease in. And make sure that's nice and pushed into the crease of your book cover. And just go over it a bunch of times. And then smooth out your flap, as we were calling it, I guess. And just keep working with it while it sets. Okay, and I'm going to do the other side so it doesn't glue down in the wrong spot. And then I'm going to go back and forth until they're good and creased. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing my bone folder, and this happens to be a very long one, so that's super handy right now. And then up onto the book cover itself where that flap is, and then back down into the crease. And just keep going until you feel like that glue is pretty set. If you don't put the crease in it now, then your book is not going to open and close easily. Okay, so we will keep working with it here. So I am going to probably let you go. So your spine should be glued flat onto your hidden spine should be glued flat onto your spine. Make sure there aren't any gaps. The other thing you can do is in between the signatures, run your bone folder. That is what you should do. Not what you can do, you actually should do it, because then you're getting your glue nice and flat in between your signature strings, or your hidden spine nice and flat. There we go. So that, along with getting your crease in, and now I've got extra cheesecloth up here, so I'll be trimming that off. But I do like to leave some of it poking out. I think that's cute. Kind of shabby looking. Okay. So then it's very important to leave it dry, to leave it alone while it dries. All right, and when you are satisfied with your crease and your gluing, what I would do is put maybe a piece of wax paper here and here to protect your pages. Keep it folded like this and place something heavier on top. It doesn't have to be super heavy, but just something to keep it closed and a little bit of pressure on it. So just take a couple bins or something like that, and leave them on there for a little while, depending on your glue, so that it stays nice and creased for you, and then it's completely dry. And then you've got a book cover that will stay flat, and it's easy to open and close. So that's it. That is it. You can manipulate this too, just a little bit if you need to, back and forth like that. Anyway, love it. This journal is not done yet. I just have a few very small things to do to it, but this will, I think I already mentioned it, it will be up for sale very soon in our Etsy shop. I'm going to collage in the front here, and so anyway, Anyway, that's beside the point. I hope you enjoyed this hidden spine tutorial and you will find it useful and helpful to you. Like I said, there are many different ways. There's no wrong way or right way, just as long as you have a very sturdy something material to sew your signatures into, and then just basically you're gluing it in. All right, anyway, I hope you did find it useful. So we will be talking to you real soon, and take care, everybody. Goodbye.